Once again, the United States government has come to a standstill as a government shutdown takes effect. This latest shutdown began at midnight on October 1, 2024, marking yet another chapter in a long history of political gridlock. Congress failed to reach an agreement on a funding plan, triggering a crisis that has become all too familiar to Americans. At the heart of the standoff are deep disagreements. Republican lawmakers are pushing for sweeping spending cuts, with a particular focus on reducing healthcare expenditures and other federal programs. On the other side, Democrats are standing firm, refusing to allow cuts to social programs that millions of Americans rely on for support and security. As the deadline passed without a deal, non-essential federal services were forced to shut down, leaving government buildings eerily quiet and operations at a standstill. Now, hundreds of thousands of federal workers are facing unpaid furloughs, uncertain about when they'll be able to return to work or receive their next paycheck. Meanwhile, millions of Americans are losing access to essential services, from passport renewals to Social Security assistance, as government offices remain shuttered. The White House and Congress are locked in a tense standoff, each side blaming the other for the impasse, while the nation watches anxiously. This battle isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet, it's a fundamental clash over the role and size of government in American life, and what priorities should guide the nation's future. One side demands a leaner government and significant reductions in federal spending, arguing that fiscal responsibility is essential for the country's long-term health. The other side insists on protecting vital programs, emphasizing the need to safeguard the social safety net and support vulnerable communities. The result is a city and a country paralyzed by gridlock and uncertainty, as everyday Americans wait for their leaders to find common ground. Until lawmakers can bridge this deep divide, the government will remain partially closed, and the effects will ripple across the nation. Across the country, families and workers are caught in the crossfire, worried about their livelihoods in the future, hoping desperately for a breakthrough. This shutdown lays bare the deep political divisions that define our era, and the ongoing struggle to find consensus in a polarized nation. With no resolution in sight, the country faces yet another test of its political system and the resilience of its people in the face of uncertainty. As the shutdown begins, the blame game erupts. Republicans accuse Democrats of holding the budget hostage for healthcare funding. Democrats counter that Republicans refuse to negotiate in good faith. Both sides flood the media, fighting for public support. The White House uses the shutdown to push controversial policy changes, layoffs, funding freezes, and targeted cuts. Even government websites echo partisan messages, raising ethical concerns. Oversight agencies that could investigate are themselves shuttered. The shutdown weakens accountability and deepens mistrust. Instead of compromise, leaders dig in, making resolution harder. The battle for public opinion overshadows efforts to end the crisis. Federal workers are the first to feel the brunt of a government shutdown, as the effects ripple through their daily lives almost immediately. Hundreds of thousands of employees are suddenly furloughed or required to work without pay. This includes air traffic controllers, FBI agents, border patrol officers, and countless others who provide essential services to the nation. While some critical services continue to operate, paychecks stop arriving, putting enormous financial strain on families across the country who depend on regular income. Public services grind to a halt. Marriage licenses are delayed, national parks and museums close their doors, and local businesses near federal buildings lose vital customers, hurting local economies. Social Security checks still go out, but the offices and help centers that assist seniors and vulnerable citizens are either closed or overwhelmed, leaving many without the support they need. Hiring freezes and buyout offers further shrink the government's capacity to serve, even in departments that handle critical public needs, making it harder to recover once the shutdown ends. Many federal workers live paycheck to paycheck, and now, with no income, they are forced to make tough choices about groceries, bills, and basic necessities. Morale plummets as dedicated public servants find themselves caught in the middle of a political standoff, feeling undervalued and uncertain about their future. The longer the shutdown drags on, the deeper the hardship becomes, with families turning to food banks and support services just to get by. The ripple effects extend far beyond government offices, touching every corner of daily life. Child care centers close, playgrounds sit empty, and small businesses struggle to stay afloat. With each passing day, the toll of the shutdown grows heavier, as uncertainty and anxiety mount for millions of Americans. Across the nation, Americans wait anxiously for relief, hoping that a political breakthrough will finally bring an end to the crisis and restore stability to their lives. The shutdown's economic impact is swift and far-reaching. Federal spending freezes halt infrastructure projects, stalling jobs and local economies. Key agencies stop releasing economic data. No jobs report, no inflation numbers, leaving markets in the dark. Businesses and investors face uncertainty, slowing hiring and investment. Federal workers spend less, hurting small businesses nationwide. Contractors lose payments, and consumer confidence drops. The longer the shutdown, the greater the economic damage. The world watches as U.S. political dysfunction threatens growth and stability. Even after reopening, recovery is slow and uncertain. The shutdown's ripple effects may last long after the crisis ends. Government shutdowns aren't new in American history, but over the years they've grown longer, more frequent, and increasingly disruptive to daily life. The record, 35 days in 2018-19, was set over a bitter dispute about border wall funding, leaving many services frozen. Earlier shutdowns in the 90s and in 2013 also followed similar partisan standoffs, with both sides refusing to compromise. Shutdowns usually strike when government is divided. One party controls Congress, while the other holds the White House, fueling gridlock. Each episode brings political risk. Those blamed for the shutdown often pay a price at the polls in the next election. Yet, shutdowns remain a favored tactic for leverage, despite the public backlash and frustration they cause. The lessons of history often go unheeded, as today's crisis repeats the same old patterns again and again. Understanding this history helps explain why shutdowns keep happening and why they're likely to continue. Shutdowns became the norm after legal opinions in the early 80s forced agencies to halt work without funding. This marked a dramatic shift in how the federal government operated during budget disputes, as agencies could no longer rely on the expectation that Congress would eventually come through with the money. Before then, agencies kept running, expecting Congress to act. The government functioned on the assumption that funding would be approved, and essential services continued uninterrupted, even if budgets were delayed. Now, divided government turns budgeting into a high-stakes game of chicken. Political parties use the threat of a shutdown as a bargaining chip, each side hoping the other will blink first. Shutdown threats are used as leverage, making annual funding a political battleground. Instead of routine governance, budget negotiations become moments of crisis, with both sides digging in. The result is instability. Agencies can't plan, projects stall, and public trust erodes. Federal workers face uncertainty about their paychecks, and vital services for citizens are put on hold. Lawmakers prioritize party loyalty over compromise, fueling dysfunction. The willingness to negotiate and find middle ground has faded, replaced by partisan standoffs that leave the government in limbo. The shutdown is more than a budget failure. It's a symptom of deeper political divides. It reflects a system where gridlock and brinkmanship have become the norm, rather than the exception. Each year, the risk of closure looms, undermining confidence in government. Citizens, businesses, and even government employees are left wondering if essential services will be available when they need them most. The process is broken, and the consequences are real. From delayed paychecks to halted research and closed parks, the impact of shutdowns ripples across the country. Until the system changes, shutdowns will remain a recurring threat, casting a shadow over the nation's ability to govern itself effectively. With both parties entrenched, a quick resolution seems unlikely. Talks continue, but public statements focus on blame, not compromise. The longer the shutdown, the greater the risk for all politicians. Public frustration could force lawmakers to act. Fear of backlash is a powerful motivator. Possible outcomes. A bipartisan group breaks ranks, leadership concedes, or a temporary funding deal emerges. For now, uncertainty reigns. Federal workers wait, services stall, and the economy wobbles. The American public watches, hoping leaders will finally put country over party. The path forward depends on political will, and the cost of continued gridlock.